greetings, and welcome to the Sista Lel show on Bless Radio. And tonight we're going to have a guest in the studio, and it's Galatic Clyde, and he'll be joining us for an interview a little bit later. I'm going to first play you 3 tracks. The first one is special request from Natasha, all the way down there in Bath. And I hope it's not too chilly for you. So we're going to start with this one. Her first request was Two-Face Rasta. And here we go.
Lord, them lie, Lord, them lie, son. The wicked, them lie, son. Yeah, yeah, I said the wicked, them lie, son. Yeah. Some of them say them are naughty dream. And some of them say them are Rasta.
Yes, Natasha.
Some of them are Two-Face Rasta man. Since the wicked them say Selassie I did. Some of them are turned back to Bali. Cause some of them are dream of them talent. I know we are find all the hypocrites. Since the wicked them say Selassie I did. But children, don't be misled. Cause Cha-Cha is not there. How can Jah leave his children in the wilderness to suffer? The wheat and the tears must grow until the day of judgment, when Jah shall declare himself and separate them from each other. Cause some of them say them are naughty dream, and some of them say them are Rastaman, but some of them are Two-Face Rastaman. From the wicked them say Selassie I did. Yes, some of them are turned back to Bali, and some of them are dream of them talent. I know we are find all the hypocrites. Since the wicked them say Selassie I did. Yeah, Lord, the wicked them lie, Lord, yeah. Is it dream? Some of them say them are naughty dream, and some of them say them are Rastaman, but some of them are Two-Face Rastaman. From the wicked them say Selassie I did. Some of them are turned back to Bali, and some of them are dream of them talent. I know we are find all the hypocrites. Since the wicked them say Selassie I did. But children, don't be misled, cause Cha is not there. How can Jah leave his children in the wilderness to suffer? But the wheat and the tears must grow until the day of judgment, when Jah shall declare himself and separate them from each other. of judgment.
Keep the faith. This one is for Kurt Amlak and it's called Selling Out.
In them insanity, get them selling out. Them selling out. Them selling out. For the fantasy, them selling out. In them hypocrisy, get them selling out. Them selling out. Brown the locks for so long and try so hard to belong until the day the test come. See how they stay. Yeah, yeah. The way moonlight just look at the past and see many people dead for the cash. Life is body just let the ash. The soul is freed by selfless acts. So freedom it is an internal path. Rastafari my honor that. I give and I culture a king and I got. Many are fallen and many lock up. Freedom by the shit I live up in a serious time. We are trying to stand up. Stand up for memories of age and old. Many bow down and lose their soul. Many bow down and lose their soul. Them selling out for the vanity. Them selling out in them insanity. Get them selling out. Them selling out. Them selling out for the fantasy. Them selling out in them hypocrisy. Get them selling out. Them selling out. My conscience clear, are you sincere? You were a friend I once said near. Your cries at night, no one will hear. And still you're fear and drunk on fear. About yourself is all this fear. One day you'll end up in despair. Don't mix up in a wrath affair. Share the price you will bear. Deceitful spinning web of lies. You and the devil, sure lies. You will come to your own demise. Couldn't you never exercise? So many years wasted. Bitter fruits tasted. But I don't hold no malice. All my care has gone callous. My mistake was you were a friend. I thought on you I could depend. I thought that you were just sin. I know now that was all pretend. This is to do without apprehension. Your name I no longer will I mention. You cannot be trusted. Now I feel disgusted. Money is your happiness. Your heart one day shall be sadness. Wandering life shadowless. You proving you are classless. Thanks for the lookout. You tried your best, I doubt. Now I know what you're all about. You truly are a sellout. You are a sellout. I and I defend this to the end, yo. Them selling out for the vanity. Them selling out in them insanity. Get them selling out. Them selling out. Them selling out for the fantasy. Them selling out in them hypocrisy. Get them selling out. Them selling out. Them giving up and selling out. Yes, them selling out. Yes, them selling out. Yes, them selling out.
This one is Prince Allah and Kitty Roots. It's called You Can't Hide.
So let the
of our mouth, meditation of our hearts. Be acceptable in thy sight, oh Jah. And everything we do must be upful and right in thy sight, oh Father. Selassie, Rastafari. You run to the hills to hide you. The hills need a hiding place. You run to the sea to cover you. The sea need an hiding place. You run to the rock for shelter. The rock can shelter you. Run to the cave to hide you. The cave can't hide you. You just can't hide. Can't hide yourself from Jah. You just can't hide. Can't hide yourself from Jah. You run to Babylon for refuge, but Babylon can't help you. You run for Babylon money, but money can't buy you life. Just can't hide. Can't hide yourself from Jah. You just can't hide. Can't hide yourself from Jah. For so it was in the beginning, so it shall be in this time. For righteousness shall cover the earth, like the water cover the sea. No, no, Selah, Selah. You run to the hills to hide you. The hills need a hiding place. You run to the sea to cover you. The sea need an hiding place. You run to the rock for shelter. The rock can shelter you. Run to the cave to hide you. The cave can't hide you. You just can't hide. Can't hide yourself from Jah. Oh no way, no way. Can't hide yourself from Jah. Beautiful world, beautiful people. Let us sing thy praise continually. Oh Jah, Rastafari. Can't hide yourself from Jah. No, no, no way. No. Can't hide yourself from Jah. No, no, no way. You just can't hide. Can't
yes, yes. It's all about living right and connecting to the right sources. So, for those of you who've just joined us, it's Sista Lel on Bless Radio. And we have in here tonight a guest, and it is Galactic Clyde with us here this evening. Greetings.
Greetings, Sister Lel. How are you?
Give thanks.
And greetings to everyone in Radio Land tuning into Bless FM.
Yes.
We're welcome. You're welcome. We'll see where we go with this today.
Give thanks. Well, I want to start with asking you, why did you call yourself Galactic Clyde?
Okay, Galactic Clyde, yes.
Yes.
Galactic Clyde came out of my understanding of the Mayan system of astrology and doing a divination for myself in connection to my date of birth. And I come up as the Galactic Red Earth.
Ooh.
And so that's why so the red earth, which is also represent my persona. So that's where I just a Galactic Clyde. So that's me. I'm galactic. Galactic is a word representing the integrity in connection to the Mayan system. It means integrity. It's the top of the pyramid.
Okay.
So yes, I'm Galactic Clyde.
Galactic. Okay.
And red is the
fantastic.
color. What was interesting about it, there was another aspect of it that reminds me of when I was much younger and the nickname I used to be called, but I don't want to say what the nickname is because people will be using that to call me that, and I don't want to use that. So, but it was just an interesting synchronicity in connection when I did when I did the divination to find my name in connection. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, I understand you used to live in the US.
Yes, I live in the US.
So,
Interesting times.
yes. So, can you tell us about that your experience there and its contrast to, say, the UK
The
or
UK.
London? Yeah.
Okay. I live in the US for 17 years. And actually, the first week I went to the US, and this is very interesting. First week I had a dream, and it was a very fearful dream because I dreamt of a certain accident. I didn't know what exactly, but I was very fearful of on that day. And I remember the morning I was going to work down in Manhattan. I'm talking about the first 2 weeks or something like that when I went to the US. And I was going with my uncle to do some work, and I wanted to tell him, be careful of his driving.
Yes.
And so I didn't want to tell him in a certain way for him to look that, they like to talk about superstition. So I just tell him, be careful of his driving. I didn't want to tell him I dreamt of an accident and all of that.
Yes.
I just tell him be careful because I know what the reaction would be.
Yes.
But I was actually 19, around 19.
Oh, wow.
So I was very young,
Yes.
but also I was very much in tune, psychically in terms of dreams and messages.
Yes.
So I remember on the job, when we get to the job, everybody's saying, oh, there's a space shuttle. I think the space shuttle crashed that time,
Yes.
but it crashed on his way up.
Ah, okay.
And they said the parts was going to come down and it could fall in Manhattan or it could be falling anywhere. And so, that's when I confirmed that was the connection with the dream.
Okay.
But would you believe that actually being there 17 years, so the first couple of weeks I went there, I had a dream in connection to a shuttle crash.
Yes.
Yeah. And before I left, there was a
Yes.
crash. So in the time when I went, a shuttle crashed on his way up. And in the time when I left, just before I left, a shuttle crash on his way down.
Oh, wow.
Hence the name Clyde. So yeah,
fantastic.
and both of them came as a dream,
As a
in
dream,
that, because
wow.
when the shuttle crashed, the one that crashed in 2003, I had a dream, and I had a dream. I saw in the dream I saw a number,
Yes.
and I was driving the day, and right where I went to work in Mount Vernon area, I saw the number on the building, and I was like, that's the number I dreamt about, 616.
Yes.
And I realized that it was an upholstery shop.
Oh.
And you believe that when the shuttle crashed, they said that one of the reasons for the crash of the last shuttle was the upholstery. Yeah,
See
it was
all those
amazing
connections.
connecting like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, one on the way up, on my visit to the UK, and one US, and one on the way down when I'm leaving. The same
Leaving,
year when
wow.
I leave. It was very so. My time was up.
Yeah,
I guess.
definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. So,
So
in the US, there's a yearly celebration called Juneteenth, and I'm sure that because you were living there for, what was it, 17 years?
yes, I've been
that-
to Juneteenth. Yes.
Okay. What was your experience of that? Because we have, like Kwanzaa over here, but we don't have anything of that kind of definition.
Okay. Do you know what Juneteenth represents?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
No.
Yes, I've been to Juneteenth several times, and actually, I had some magical experience in Juneteenth,
Oh, wow.
because we look forward to it every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one year when I was going, the morning it was raining, pouring down with rain,
Yes.
and the message I get was expect a miracle.
Oh.
So I didn't say anything. I was just happy that things gonna shift.
Yes.
So that day I remember I made a pyramid because I was into pyramidology,
Yes.
and so I took a copper pyramid there, and I had some stars and things that I set up on a big ankh, and I
Yes.
took that at the beach, and I remember when I set up the pyramid, it was cloudy when we got there. When I
Yes.
set up the pyramid, people was like, they was amazed because the clouds started to shift. The
Yeah.
energy started to shift. People coming around and what's going on? The big pyramid they set up.
Mm-hmm.
A 8 foot long copper pipe, four base pyramid,
Yes.
and set that up, and the energy, they just
Started
clear
to
up. The
shift.
sun bursts out of the sky. It was very powerful.
Wow.
So that was the miracle.
Wow.
I still have
Sure.
pictures of that day. But yes, Juneteenth was very much a very powerful celebration in connecting with the ancestors and remember what happens in the Middle Passage in that
Yes.
sense. So
Yeah.
yes, I look forward to it every year. I missed it since I've been over here, and there's nothing equivalent over here
Oh, no, there isn't.
as yet.
No. I like that. As yet.
As yet.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
So, when did your involvement with like astrology and the sacred sciences? When did this begin?
Okay. I think before I left my country,
Yes.
which are from the Caribbean, I had curiosities.
Yes.
I remember I was in the religion, I was in Christianity, and I had my curiosities about deeper knowledge. I remember reading in the Bible, it talks about certain people that were very much versed in the knowledge of the stars. I remember in school when we were doing about it was a science class, and they were talking about the tropical Capricorn and the tropical Cancer.
Yes.
And everybody was like, astrology, and I was like, what's that? And the teacher said, no, that don't have nothing to do with astrology. I come to realize it was wrong, because the
Okay.
tropical Cancer and the tropical Capricorn is the what do you call it, the South Pole and the North Pole in connection to astrology, which is the solstice, the summer solstice and the winter solstice. And so we were learning that, but my curiosity was piqued, but not anybody that could teach or give us the influence of astrology. And so I came around, when living in New York, I came across the work of Aisha Grice, who was an astrology teacher and speaker, and she wrote in Essence magazine on different information on astrology, and so I got in touch with her and we did an astrology course. Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
And there was another sister by the name of Gail Armstead as well. And so I was learning. I got a reading from her as well. So during the reading also, he piqued my interest even more because it was so on point, the information I was reading about myself, that I wanted to learn more. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And when you started this journey, was it, for some people it's they start and then they've left it for a while, or was it just a full speed ahead, as in you just went straight, your curiosity grew and you became more and more interested and developed it further? Because there's many people I've met along the way who, they love it, they read one or two things, they get partial knowledge, but don't go the whole way and learn it in its depth.
Good one. Yeah, well, actually, I had a friend of mine, so her name is Myra, who's living in Queens, New York. She's since passed. And she works in social service, and she opened a school downstairs in the basement of a house, and she would start teaching, like different things that we were discussing. I remember one time they called me and they said, Clyde, I want you to. There's a pyramid design that they got, and they want me to build it. And so they piqued my knowledge into the interest of astrology, but even to sacred geometry.
Yes.
And so they gave me the layout. And actually, there's a book called The Science of God, The Philosophy of Man.
Yes.
A very
yes.
powerful book on pyramid. And it was out of that book that they wanted me to build that pyramid, and based on the knowledge that was in there. And so in that school, when she opened that school, she needed different people to teach certain courses or certain classes.
Yes.
So I started to really show a lot more interest in the astrology. Both me and her, we did a one-to-one astrology class with Aisha Grice.
Yes.
And I think that's where she said, like, well, it's time to start teaching. And so I started to work with her at the shrine. We call it the Shrine of Ma'at. And so I was teaching the astrology there. And actually, since I get into astrology, because astrology borders the mystical science, and so I was very much interested in a lot of those things, because to me it was a lot of secret. You hear a lot of things here and there which is sniff and you want to pull it all together. And so that piqued my interest to want to know more, you know. And what was very interesting about New York, there was a lot of books available on the road, on the street. You be walking, passing, and people selling a lot of different books that, hard to find books on the road. You find it there, and so that I used to just buy a lot of stuff and study, a lot of books and study.
Yeah, it was the right time to be like in the States, definitely.
Yes. Sometimes I feel like the book was just waiting for me to just come by and pick them up, because it was so on point, Yeah,
that means it's just again clarification that you were supposed to be going on this journey.
Yes.
Because they say the ease in which things happen for you means it's meant to be.
Yes.
And I guess as you were talking, I'm seeing there's a pattern that's unfolding, and it's quite directional as well.
Okay, see.
Yes.
Well, there's an elder that used to be selling on 125th named Gene, his name. I'm not sure. I think he was from South Carolina, one of them places, or South in London.
Yeah.
But he was a teacher, and he teach the metaphysics. And I remember he had this big book, Manly P. Hall, big book, And I remember I bought that book. It was like $100 and something dollars for that book, And a lot of different books that he carried. There was like books on astrology, masonry, and all the different mystical stuff. He carries those things, And even I remember on 125th there was a Masonic bookshop. There's books that you can't buy there, but with him you can buy those books. You see books that they will tell you, no, you have to be a Mason to buy these books.
Yeah.
But you can buy them from Gene. So you know what I mean. But anybody in New York would know who Gene is in terms of those that back then,
Wonderful.
And they're talking about around 1986 and on, yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Wow. So look at that synchronicity all the way.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And you make sacred geometry, and you've been making it for a while. So can you explain the importance of sacred geometry and why you make those photonic solids?
Okay. Just the name itself, sacred geometry, we only think about it just GRY. Yes. We don't think about it as the number 3. And learning different things in terms of metaphysics. The number 3 is the number of magic and creativity.
Yes.
And this is a number 3 year, yeah. So sacred geometry, I'm a number 3. That's why I'm saying that as well.
Yes.
Because being a number 3, I've got that creative muse about me.
Yes.
And so sacred geometry, or the knowledge of sacred geometry, helps me to bring out the best of myself in that sense. I had an interest in shapes because I always love shapes. I think when I look at my background, I think maybe because my dad was my dad is an architect, so he draw and build, and I always love odd shapes and things like that. I love shapes, but I come to realize that shapes manifest power. So any shapes or different shapes manifest different powers, and so the shapes are holding a certain power. So the how they say, energy follows form. So the form or the shape manifests whatever the energy is. So, like for instance, the shape of fire is an upward triangle, while the shape of water is a downward triangle, in that sense, or the shape that connected to water in that sense. Yeah. So when I started work in construction, I always liked the intricate details in terms of shape or odd shapes and things like. Up to now, I'm still into that. I just love it. It's just something that just really grabs me in that sense.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So it must be the number 3. That's
yes,
the sacred
definitely.
geometry. Geometry tree. Yes.
What was the first shape that you made?
Ooh. Well, actually, going back in the Caribbean,
Yes.
I remember back home we used to play with cards, not like how the people are doing now, playing with computers. We used to play with the marbles, and we used to make our own cards. Yeah.
Yes.
So in carpentry, to cut a circle, you have to use a jigsaw. But in the Caribbean, in that time, we didn't have those tools like jigsaw and things like that. Most times, at carpentry school is a coping saw.
Greetings. I think we have a caller on the line. Greetings, caller.
How you doing?
Greetings.
Greetings, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi, caller. Yes, hi. Who's this, brother?
This is Benoit.
Greetings, Benoit.
Yeah.
Yes, greetings. How are you, Benoit?
I'm good. I can't quite catch up with the topic. What's the topic you're talking about?
That's what the topic?
It's an interview that we're doing, brother.
Is that with Oh right, sorry. I've picked it up at the wrong time, I think.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to get. I don't know what. How come I'm calling from this number? I was trying to get hold of Russ Bless.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of an interview and it's live.
I apologize. I'm gonna try and pick it up on the radio now. What's the frequency?
It's 92.9 FM.
Lovely.
blessradio.org, or you can be on the you can find us on the TuneIn on Google. You can
Alright.
also go to YouTube and find Bless Radio 1,
All right, lovely. That's fantastic.
and we're live
Big
streaming
up,
on
big
there.
Up, big up to Bless FM. I know they do good work in the community.
Thank you,
So big up
thank
what you're
you.
doing. Lovely. All right, I'm gonna tune in.
Oh,
Thank you.
can you just say your name again, a bit louder, because I can hardly hear you.
My name's Benoit.
Oh, Benoit. Oh, you came closer
Benoit.
to the mic. That's fantastic. Do that again.
I do a lot of community work.
Come closer to the mic again. Whatever you just did then before was wonderful.
Yeah, I do a lot of community work in the London Borough of Haringey
Oh, wonderful. Yes.
with the young people. And
Yes.
get them on a positive track. You know what I'm saying? That's me.
Okay, brother. I'd like you to stay on the line, please, and we'll speak with you a little bit, just in a little bit. You'll be
Alright.
able to hear the interview if you also put that on YouTube. And go to Bless Radio 1. You'll be able to hear the interview of Galactic Clyde streaming on there now, and he deals with sacred geometry, so you might find it very interesting what he has to say.
Clyde, I've seen him live and direct.
Yes, well, he's here live and direct now on Bless Radio to interviewing.
Yeah, respect, yeah?
But the
Yes,
only
we're
thing is,
interviewing him right now.
I'm gonna have to get on the radio, but the only thing is, I'm not good at the technology, so I won't be able to
Don't
get
worry
it.
about that, brother. Just tune into the YouTube. It'll be fine. Just click the
All right.
just click it on YouTube, and you'll see us streaming on there.
All right, let me have a go.
All right, bless. Thank
All right,
you.
yeah. Okay. You want me to go back to the first
Yes.
shape, yes? First
So,
shape, yes.
we-
I must say yes, sorry, go
So
ahead.
the question that I had asked Galactic Clyde before the caller came in to find out about the show was that I asked him what was the first shape that he had ever made.
Yeah, I would like to say that, going back into my history, the first shape was the circle. What was amazing that we had to make the circle with a nail, because we didn't have a jigsaw or coping saw to cut a round circle. So what we do, we make the circle, and then you will like use a pan, mark it around, and then use a nail to bore all the way around. We dig it, knock the nail in, pull it out, and go all the way around until we got a full circle.
Oh, wonderful.
And do you know this still applies? Because I remember on a construction job I was done, and they wanted to drill a big hole, but they didn't have the drill.
Yes.
And I said, well, just use this. They didn't have the drill to the size like a 8-inch hole.
Yes.
But they don't have an 8-inch drill. And so it comes back to memory. Yeah, you could use a small drill and just dig right around until you get it, because it's concrete. Yeah.
Yes.
So those same things applies even now in my older years.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing because we just make what do. We make what we have do. So that we make we make 2 circles, and then in between the slot is a board that goes in the middle, and then a stick. And so that we make that with a cart, and then we use like a string to steer the wheel. So we push that around as tilted. So we used to make our own toys in that sense.
Yes, that's wonderful. And that is truly creative. So you definitely are the number 3.
Yeah.
Because to be thrifty with your hands very early, and to be able to create things in the here and now that you can actually utilize. So you're not just creative, it's also practical creativity.
Yes, it's practical. Yes.
So that's wonderful. And what is the crown of Assar?
The crown of Assar.
Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Yes.
What's the crown of Assar? Okay.
Yeah. I think because many, I think people have an idea of what you're doing with sacred geometry, but I think this particular, because I was asked that question to ask you actually.
Okay, the crown of Assar.
Yes.
It I don't know. It sounds like a more Kabbalistic question. Is it?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm almost there then.
Yes.
What they call in Kabbalah, they call the Shekinah, or the glory.
Yes.
The glow.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it was about the shape.
Yes, that's the triangle. It's the triangle. Yes. Okay. I'm getting that, because Assar, and this is very interesting to understand that Assar, in the Hebrew, would come under what is called a Hebrew deity, which they will call they might say Melchizedek. Yeah, Melchizedek would be a symbol of Assar in that sense, or some of these deity that is used in Hebrew, because remember the Hebrew text is taken from the ancient Egyptian.
Yes.
So we can go either way in terms of knowledge. So when you say Assar, because we don't have that as a knowledge base directly in connection with Kemet, because we have it indirectly through the Kabbalistic system. That's why I would say I know it's a Kabbalistic type question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And how do you see the connection between, say, sacred geometry and the earth? What is the connection between the two?
Okay. Yes. Sacred geometry and the earth, that's where the energy grids and things like that comes in. Because the earth as we know it is based on the sacred geometry symbol for the earth is a square. Yeah? So the square or the the box is the symbol of the earth. Because in sacred geometry you got earth, air, fire, water. So the basis of the earth is the earth energy, which is called Malkuth, or what they said the earth in that sense. And so yes, it with square is limitation. It's where we come here to work out our karmic life in that sense. Yes. Yeah. So it's also our physical body. So the earth is symbolic of the physical body, and so the sacred geometry in connection to the earth is about form.
About form.
Form.
Okay.
Yeah. Formation. Yes. Or the manifestation.
And how would you explain to somebody to use sacred geometry practically within their lives?
Okay, yeah, very good. Sacred geometry, because people might be going through different issues in their life, stress. They may be going through different things that we want to have happen to our life. Because sacred geometry plays a very powerful role in all sector of our life, because our life may be manifest to fire, earth, air, water, ether, which is the highest form. And a lot of the emotional issues where we're having is the water. So the water rules the emotion. And to balance the water, you need the earth. because earth and water is much like symbiotic, interchange with each other. So somebody who are going through emotional stress and things like that needs something creative to do, needs something to do practical to deal with the emotional. So you may be stressed, you maybe want to listen to some relaxed music, or you want to do hands-on creativity, pottery, gardening, or something that could take your mind and help you to use a more practical way to see another aspect of that side of yourself. Yeah. So sacred geometry is powerful for different spiritual development in that sense, because like the energy of air, the intellect. You know, so the intellect comes under the energy of air, and the shape that corresponded with them with is the upward and the downward triangle, and you know, it's a stimulating the intellectual, because a lot of time what we see in society is that there's a dumb down of the intellect, especially with a lot of the new technology, because everything we've been programmed to not to have the long-term memory. You know, when you think about places like the Bantus. Bantus can tell you history that goes back to the beginning of time, that they narrate down to the races, and they would keep every information, because they swore on their life to carry certain knowledge from their ancestors without deviating from it. And so they would tell you history that goes back generation. They can tell you how much generation the family goes back, because it's something that they've been, you know, from way before all the writing and things like that, all the stuff that we have. They've known to keep things to story and to poetry. We've lost that. We can hardly remember our own personal phone number, much less to even family and friends, you know?
It's true.
Yeah. So sacred geometry helps us to learn to stimulate the other sides of ourselves that we don't really think. Because when you think about something like poetry, it's a creative art.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's not just verbal, but it's a creative where you use words to rhyme, but you're rhyming and also have meaning. And, you know, because even though you're rhyming word with word, they also have to make sense.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So, yeah. So sacred geometry plays a role in that as well, because you have to know from where does the next rhyme begins, and where you skip over, but you're still rhyming the next sentence and things like that. So there's creative intelligence.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So the next I'm going to ask you, so I asked you about the connection with the earth, but I'm also going to ask you about sacred geometry and, for example, the Akasha records.
Akashic, yes, record, yes.
Yeah, and the connection between the two, and can sacred, so it's a twofold question.
Yes.
So it's like the connection between the two, and can sacred geometry be utilized in order to help people access this?
Okay, yeah, good. Akashic record, for people who may not understand, is like that everything that's going on this earth or in the universe is recorded. And it's recorded because there's a divine recording that everything is accessed and accept, and it's in a memory bank called the Akashic record. Right now, government has created their own Akashic record, where all our phone conversation, everything that's been said and do TV, where you're on the bus, all of that is gone into what is called an Akashic record of the earth, so that a future generation can go and access. Oh, this was my grandmother and the great grandmother on the bus how much years ago. But in the universe, in the what is called the Akashic record, is that everything it's been hold in a spiritual memory bank, where it can be accessed by people who are developed spiritually, can tap into the Akashic record. Now, the energy of the Akashic record would be in connection to sacred geometry. You'll be talking about what is called the dodecahedron, which is the shape that represents the fifth energy, the fifth element, which is the etheric energy. And so the more in tune we are with the etheric realm is where we can access certain aspect of the Akashic record. There's certain things like certain magical herbs that can help us to transcend time and space and tap into other aspects of life, which can help us to do such things as well, which is what is called the psychedelic herbs, or what they call it, the herb psychology, which is you got certain herbs, they're very much of a psychological in nature and help us to tap into certain hidden recesses of our being. Yeah. So we're talking
Wonderful.
about sacred geometry. You're talking about the etheric realms, and so the more we in tune with the ether, which is the shape for that is the dodecahedron, as I said before, and so I actually make a dodecahedron which is copper, and that you can actually go inside of.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you can hold about 4 or 5 or maybe 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 about 6 to 8 people can hold inside the shape.
Oh,
But
it's
the
quite
shape
big.
itself, yes,
Wow.
and just being around it as well is very, very, very powerful in that sense. I
Wow.
remember one time I had a ceremony set up where we were setting up the dodecahedron, and I had a sister who came along. She didn't know what it was all about, but she said she wants to come and check out what we was doing, and her experience was really, she said, I don't know anything about the shape, and she started talking about certain images that she was seeing because he activates certain aspects of her. She didn't have no clue what she was
Wow.
going or what it was all about, but when she started talking about her experience just being under that dodecahedron, it was very profound. That shapes that she don't know about, she was seeing it in her mind's eye. It was very much,
Amazing.
but
Wow.
yeah, sacred drama can do such a thing. I remember making the shape, and when I finished making the shape, it gave off a sound. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
you guys can't see what just happened, but my jaw
Yeah.
kind of hit. I was like, wow.
Yes, it gives off a sound because
sound, wonderful.
colors, sacred geometry and colors are interchanged. A sound is a color and a shape. A shape is a color and a sound. Yeah. So it give off a sound when I actually put the last piece together. I heard it.
Oh wow.
And I was like, wow, this was very powerful.
Wow.
And it was like a dodeca star that I made.
Because everything is like energy,
Yeah.
isn't it? So it will
Yes.
so it has
Yes.
so that shape, it has its frequency,
Sees,
its own
yes.
specific frequencies.
Yes, and it's not frequency; it's always around. Yes, yes, yes. So we're bouncing. Sometimes you're walking on the road, and people you're like if you walk, people not because people are on the bus most of the time now. We don't enjoy walking, but if you walk from one area to another area for a while, you start realize there's an interchange with the temperature. Certain places a little bit colder than others,
Yes.
and also you felt a different energy shift at
Yes.
certain points.
Yes,
But
definitely.
we've lost that understanding.
Yes.
Well, there's a geometric pattern that actually engulfs the earth that connects with the heavens. And so when you walk into one shape or the energy grids from one area to the other, you can feel that shift. Many times we feel it, but we don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, this is absolutely true because I
Yeah.
can bear witness to being in situations with different people and walking into rooms
Right.
and actually looking at the person, we're looking at each other, and we've had to walk out of the
Okay.
room because things like a heaviness
Okay.
could be
Yes.
in the room, or it could have a really like an erratic energy,
Okay.
like prickly. So
See,
it's
see.
almost like someone's got their nails down a chalkboard and gone.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've got to
Yeah.
come out of there.
Yes, I remember
So-
one time in New York, as you said that I was in a record shop. I went there
Yes.
with a friend, and I was in there, and my energy was very, very high. I
Yes.
knew, and I saw the guy behind the record. He was sweating. He was sweating, and he didn't have a clue what happened. But I knew by my energy, the energy interchanged,
Yes.
and he was sweating. You know what I mean? But sometimes, because your energy, sometimes we don't know ourselves in that sense, but we all have influence on each other. But
Yes.
sometimes we don't know where their star is in connection to our star while the influence, and that's
Yes.
why sometimes we get along better with certain people that we get along with. But
Yeah.
all this have to do with the astrology interchange.
Yes.
We may not know what it is, but it's there whether we know
Yes.
it or not.
Yes,
you know?
it's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
very true. Because you can even feel that just by shaking someone's hand.
Yes.
You can feel that shift. Or if you go, and sometimes you're standing next to different people, and you can actually feel, oh no, I don't feel comfortable. Or you could be, oh, this person's so warm. Why do you feel that they're warm if they've never not even opened their mouth?
Yes, yes. Well, in certain parts of Africa where they practice the traditional spirituality, or what some people may consider witch doctor or a seer. What they said, a lot of those people would live on the edge of the village
Yeah.
because they don't want to contaminate the energy with the village, so they will
Yeah.
live on the edge so they can pick up more, and they'll be more open to the energies or the elements as opposed to the mixture. So
Yeah.
when you see most stories or about ancient stories about witchcraft or about people who are mystical, they stay away from the public so they don't contaminate the energy. Even myself, because I do astrology, there's sometimes I try not to be doing reading or research on what other people are saying about astrology, because I don't want that to be the influence of what I'm getting or what I need to say. So there are times I don't even listen to the news or just what the influence from somebody else who's explaining, because I have my own. And then when the two of them meet now and then they start complimenting, then you realize, wow, it's heavy, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, but it
Wow.
works like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, because I don't think as we go around on an everyday basis, because we do have these shapes all over the place.
Shapes
If
are
you
everywhere.
look,
Yes.
they are.
Yeah, but what we don't understand as well, we're talking about even the plants.
Yes.
Within the plants, and that's what
Yes.
empowered the plants, is certain shapes,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so but also, even when we don't see that the energies are passing through us,
Mm-hmm.
it's in the air, it's everywhere, we're breathing it in, we're drinking it with the water as well,
Yeah.
you know, we're bathing it.
Because when I think of sacred geometry, I kind of think of, many people will understand what I'm talking about, like the film The Matrix.
Yes, okay.
And you can see there's at one point
The green
where-
light.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's this in a part of the film when he suddenly is able to see the fourth dimension. He suddenly starts seeing the world in codes and shapes, and it's suddenly like a stream of like a computer screen
Yes.
of information. So I guess this is the reason why we can only see within the parameters of the color spectrum.
Okay, yes, because there's a higher intelligence that really helps you.
Yes.
But do you know, I actually had that experience with the green light. It's actually the green grid.
Yes.
It's a luminous grid. I saw it one time, was living in America,
Yes.
and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
luminous green, and it was in a matrix shape,
Oh,
and so it
okay.
is real.
They actually got that right. Wow.
They got it right. It's a
Yes.
luminous green. And then later on, I was able to read about it in a book called The Pleiadian Agenda, where they show you. But as I was explaining to you earlier about the hypnagogic, what they call the hypnagogic state,
Yes.
just before sleep and wake, if we're able to catch ourselves between sleep and wake, we'll be able to see shapes and colors and shifting of energies. And one of the things I recommend people to always do is practice to close your eyes and look into the dark aspect of your eyes, especially around your third eye, and see the changes that manifest, because you can tell when your energy is high or low by just looking in your third eye. It's a good thing to practice. Sometimes you see shapes, sometimes you see color, especially the color purple. You see it going out and you just like leaving the body, like, yeah. So it's always good to practice. That's your dashboard in that sense, like a car, just looking in there. Close your eyes and just look right into your third eye and just focus there for a good while. It's very powerful. Something I practice a lot. Which is,
And would
yeah.
you say that, like, to do this regularly would help to? Because I guess practice makes perfect, but I guess with somebody who's just starting, they can't really, or they might not be able to see, but it's just keep with it until you can actually start
Yes, you start
focusing.
seeing images. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. You start seeing what they call the tunnel vision. So you're seeing like something going down the tunnel. You see like a color shape, like most time like very luminous purple, just going in a tunnel and coming and just disappearing. Then another one and another one and another one. Because the darkness is a light.
Yes.
The darkness
Yes.
moves, it's energy. It's like little dots of pin drops of things. And so the more, in this society, a lot of people sleep with light, which is not recommended.
Yeah.
We should sleep in the pitch dark. as
Yes.
dark as it is. And when you even in the dark, you should look to see what you can see, because
Yeah,
there's
'cause-
energies moving about.
And also, it also trains your optics, because our ancients used to be able to see quite far.
Oh yes, okay.
And I think because we don't practice, because there's a difference between how we walk at night time and how you'd walk in the Caribbean deep in the countryside.
Yes, yes,
There are no lights.
yes,
So
yes.
you have to be able to walk around in the dark. I remember when I was a teenager and having people walk past me it was completely
Black, pitch black. Yes,
and I'm thinking, how did they know it's me? Because I can't actually see them. I can
Yes.
just see a form move.
yes.
But they could actually see you.
Wow. Yes, yes.
And they could
Becau-
describe to you what you're wearing in the pitch dark.
Because their eyes are sensitized to the dark,
Yes.
and most time we don't sensitize that, and it's very
Yes.
good to practice that.
Yeah.
Very, very good,
Yeah,
because the
definitely.
darkness is a mirror as well. Is the mirror of the light. And the light
Yes.
is a mirror of the dark.
Yes.
The black mirror and the light mirror.
Yes.
Yeah.
All polarities.
Yes, it's all interlinked. Yes.
Wonderful. So, outside of dreams, for example, how would you say we receive messages, and how does sacred geometry help us to be able to do that? Because we find that people say, "Oh, well, I get my messages from dreams," but there are other ways of getting messages.
Yeah, well, as the word says, sacred geometry, because it's geometry that is very sacred, it helps us to it intunes us. I remember reading about the geometry versus yoga, especially when they talk about geometric shapes. And they said the more you practice with these geometric shapes, it's more, it's like a spiritual yoga. It intune you to your soul consciousness, you know? When I say yoga, this is what I'm using. I'm paraphrasing, because yoga, what we consider as yoga, is really asana. Yeah. So when people are talking about they do yoga, they do asana. That means it's the exercise. That's just 1/10 of yoga,
Yes.
which is the asana.
Yes.
Yeah, which is the movement of the form.
Yes.
You know, but really the yoga is really yoking and tying back to both your spiritual, physical, mental, all of that is yoga. You know, so somebody who practice mysticism, people don't consider that's yoga, but that is yoga.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So the yoga that is a full what they call a curriculum, or full aspects of itself, not just asana. So the exercise where people call yoga is what is called asana. You know.
Yeah.
But yoga is a totality of itself.
Of the
So
whole-
that's where you got
yeah.
something called the Raja Yoga. So Raja Yoga deals with yoga of the mind. You got the Hatha Yoga, which is you know, the certain asana and movement. So you got the different aspects of yoga. But yoga in itself is total. It's not just the asana. So that's what when I say yoga. So sacred geometry comes under yoga as well, aspects of yoga, because it's using shapes and for the energy and the form that it represents. Yeah. So practicing in the Indian tradition, they call it yantra. Yeah. So you got mantra, but you got yantra. So those are the different shapes, and what they're saying, that yantra is even much deeper than what people consider the asana, because it goes right into your soul consciousness for elevation. So yeah.
So, through drawing them, or by
Drawing them
creating
and also looking at them also helps. It's like a
Okay.
meditation in itself. And because when you draw something, that pattern is also, your body retains that pattern, whether you draw it or you're thinking about it. You know, you're activating the energy in connection. So and certain yantras, or what they call the sacred geometry, also have certain deities that it's also govern also the shape. Going back to the dodecahedron, one time it was punishment by death to even mention the name dodecahedron. It's something that was like a trade secret in that sense, you know, back then in the time of sacred geometry, at its height. Yeah.
So, I'm going to ask you a little bit about what do you think of these emerald tablets?
Oh, I love the emerald tablets.
Yeah.
I talk so much about the emerald tablets. Yeah.
Okay.
Emerald tablets Oh, amazing
Yes.
story and amazing information. The keys of magic, you know, the twice born. You know, the
Yes.
whole, yeah, I've gone to that many times. I've listened to it, and because I have the book into speech, so I listen to it and I
Oh.
read it and I listen to it and I read it. It's something to go over. The more you study, it's the more you learn, because it's build up, this knowledge build up on itself. The important thing about the emerald tablets, Thor or Tehuti talks about himself being as a born just like how we're born in the physical form, but he's raised himself up to the God realm or the God consciousness. He's have become the God in itself in his terms of his manifestation or his evolution. And what he's saying, we as human born and the physical form can raise ourselves up to what is considered the God level. You know, and that's what he talks about. Very, very powerful book. Highly recommended.
I think it's available on Kindle at the moment.
It's on YouTube actually
as well.
in speech. You can
in
just
speech on
yes,
YouTube.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
wonderful.
Yes,
For
it's
those
on
of you
YouTube,
who
yes.
are...
The Emerald Tablets is a must. You know, it's got so much wisdom, so much knowledge. It talks about out-of-body experience where you can travel out to your body, other dimensions, people and other realms. It goes into a whole lot. The spaceships. It talks about all these things that people take for granted and thinks it's hocus pocus. It goes into it in detail.
Details.
Yes.
So for those who are interested in or who have never known about the
Emerald Tablets.
Emerald tablets, you can go on YouTube.
Yes, just Google the Emerald Tablets of Tehuti or Thor. Yes.
And then you can find like
Audiobook.
audio
Audiobook on
recording
it.
there.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So that would be YouTube for those who are looking for that particular
Yeah.
to find out more
Yes, yes.
about that. And you also deal with like cosmology as well. So you do you do like
Yeah, I cover a lot. I cover a lot of areas. You know,
Yes.
yeah, it's just amazing. Yes, cosmology. Yeah, because astrology and astronomy, it's really linked, and also, you know, you got different cultural groups. Like, for instance, the Africans. You got the Native Americans. You got the Australians. You got the different systems around the world that have, you know, talks about different aspects of the heavens and the creator and divinity and things like that. So I looked into all of these things because when I was born in the Caribbean, you know, I wasn't didn't have access to a lot of this information. So when I came across it like an hungry man, and
Yes.
so I started dabbling up and, you know,
Yes.
just feasting and enjoying the information, because for me, I think it was lacking. I remember one time my mother said she thought something was wrong with me because I never seemed to want to get into a lot of the sports thing. I never
Sports.
really into sports, but I was
Yes.
like, they couldn't understand because, you know, I remember a group of boys were playing, you know, and because she was doing domestic work, and she take me and my other brother, and when they get involved in it, I was like something's wrong with me because I wasn't really, you know, fit into that. But I think my thing was really the knowledge side, the wisdom side of things, and you know, sacred geometry, astrology, numerology, all those things are up my street.
Yeah,
You know?
wonderful. So, which side would you say you more lean towards, or you practice more than the other? Is the one that is more?
I think they all have their high and low in that
Yes.
sense. I'm all over the place with that because you know what? January morning was the 1st of January. I'm
Yes.
there laying down, and this comes a shape to me talking about, you know, I need to get into this shape, and this was the flower of life. You know, I start seeing the pattern. I start seeing the pattern, and it starts saying, I need to do this, and I need to do the other. I need to make this, and I wake up the morning and start getting my pen and paper out and get
Yes.
stuff, and I started to draw.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
because it was, and then I started to Google some stuff, and some ideas were coming that of what I need to do for 2019. It was just amazing. I just start working on it, you know, because January 1st, as a lot of people don't realize, is a very powerful day
Yeah.
because it's ruled by the King of Spades, which is in the playing cards. The
Mm-hmm.
King of Spades, which is a very powerful king, only have one day that he rules.
Yes.
And so that day is very, very powerful. And so as I was reflecting on what I was getting, I said, this is a powerful day. I need to act on what I'm getting. So I started to put those into practice, and went on the internet and started to look at stuff I need to do in connection to the message I was getting. It's a prosperity message I was getting, and I start working on it.
Wonderful.
So
wonderful.
hopefully some people will see some shapes coming this year.
Fantastic. Because the flower of life is so, that's a very therapeutic shape
Very,
to
very.
draw.
Yes,
Because
yes,
it's got this beautiful curves
yes,
happening all the way through this particular shape.
Yes.
And it's just really nice the way that the points always link together.
yes, yes. Yes, no, it's amazing shape, and even you can see that even when the sun, the sun makes a 6-point star. Sometimes when you watch the sun, you see the 6-point star, which is connected to the flower's life as well. Yeah. Yeah,
Wonderful.
you see it right there when you look at the flower of life. It's right in the middle. Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
So we're just going to play, have a
Okay.
little break and play 2 tracks for you, and come back to talking with Galactic Clyde, because I'm sure he needs a bit of a drink there.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So the next track that we are going to play is by Imperial Sound Army featuring Fakir Amlak, and the track is called No Fear.
Me no really fear no one. Me no fear no witch and magician. Me no fear no apparition. Me no really fear no one. Me no fear assassin ambition. Me no fear no for my heart. Me no really fear no one. Me no fear no ghost and phantasm. Me no fear no apparition. Me no really fear no one. Me no fear 'cause we are Habasha. We don't fear 'cause we are warrior. No fear, 'cause the wicked you got to disappear. No fear, no fear. They know my words, no see me with my spear. Stand clear, stand
greetings when we're back in the studio with Galactic Clyde there, where we had a little interim. For those of you who joined us late, we are interviewing with him and we're talking about the things that he does. So, for example, sacred geometry, cosmology, just the sacred art. Yes. Yes. So we were talking about the connection between, the Akashic records and sacred geometry. And we also talked about how we receive messages outside of just dreams. And, then we talked about the emerald tablets and you talked about the tetrahedron. So what I'd like to talk about next is how does sacred geometry work with the elements? So air, of 5 elements. Yeah.
Well, the elements are sacred geometry is what is called the geometry circle behind the elements. So
Mhm.
each one of the elements have a geometry shape and property in it. Yeah. So now we say the earth is a square, fire is a triangle,
Mhm.
water is the icosahedron,
Mhm.
the ether is the dodecahedron,
Mhm.
air is the tetrahedron. Just the upward and downward
Yes. Yes.
let's listen to the music.
Okay. Mhm.
But all the elements are actually circle representative.
Okay. Okay.
So
Mhm.
we're looking at water, the shape of it. The shape that is what is called the south
Mhm.
the icosahedron.
Mhm. Mhm.
The earth, the shape, because earth is actually not clear.
Mhm.
It's not formed. So how earth is clear? When you talk about earth, you talk about north, east, west, south. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the squaring of the circle. So
Yes.
the circle of the universe, and
Mhm.
then the square of it, because anywhere we talk about earth, we have to say either north, south, east, or west, or
Yes.
northeast, or southeast, or whatever. It's all that 4 point pattern. You know, with the circle, because the
Yes.
circle on earth is linear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have to say it's northeast, southwest, this, northwest, south, or east, or west. So
Yes.
we always refer to the square when we talk about the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but when we talk about the heavens, we talk universe.
Verse.
We always talk about the circle. Yeah, so you see the square in that aspect.
Mhm.
When you talk about fire, when you look even at fire, when fire burn, it burn in a triangular shape going up.
Yes.
Yeah, fire is always ascending. Yeah, while water descend.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So it really is in the core building blocks of the actual element.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then it's so we start, so for people to understand, we start off with, say, a circle, a square, a triangle, and so on, and then those shapes are double, tripled. How does it work, so that people
Well-
can understand how that from that shape you come to an actual form?
Okay. Well, the what is called the circle is what's the main aspect of this. The circle is the mother of all the shapes, and circle represents spirit. Yeah. So out of the circle, then we start coming up with the other shapes coming, because like if you go 3 dimension on the circle or 3 points on the circle, you form a triangle. If you go 4 points, you form a square. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you go 5 point, you form what they call you form a pentagram. Yeah, or pentagon. Yeah. So it depends on what point on the circle. So if we talk about the triangle, it's 3 point on the circle. Square is 4 point on the circle. So everything comes out. So the circle is like the mother that gives birth to all the other shapes.
So it's like I guess for people who do numerology, it'd be like a master number.
Yes, because all the numbers, yes. So
Yes.
for instance, like let's say we're talking about the triangle, yeah. So you got 3 points on the circle. That's the triangle. But then from the triangle come the tetrahedron, which you goes down a depth. So when you put depth to it, that's where you get because when we talk about the triangle, we only talk about the flat shape.
Yes.
Yeah. But when you have depth now, you got the tetrahedron. So we add depth to that. Same thing with all the shapes. So when we add depth, height, width, all of that, that's where you get the different dimensions in that sense, in connection. Yeah.
Wonderful. And which would you say is the most energetically potent shape?
Well, it would be the dodecahedron because it's 5 times the power of the pyramid, and it's the shape that is contained within all the shapes. It's the master shape that is concerned. Is how it's explained in sacred geometry that the dodeca or the ether, everything manifests from the ether, which is the shape is the dodecahedron. So out of that comes all the other shapes. So all the shapes combined together, it's connected with the etheric. So the etheric is like the mother shape or the mother of all the energy that manifests in, or what they call the energy of space. And then from that we condense into earth, air, fire, water.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So most time you see they advertise that the dodecahedron pyramid, it's 5 times the energy of the pyramid itself. Its shapes, it's 5 times pyramid shape. So when people talk about I want to make a pyramid, yeah, why not get a dodeca? It's much more potent, much more powerful in terms of the energy, you know? Yeah.
Wonderful.
So it's like that.
Wonderful. And how does this relate to the way we do our counting systems? Are they connected?
In some ways, like we're looking at 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5 is an interesting number in architecture and in building. Many people may not understand that, but if you like if you're laying out a house, I remember when I was learning trade, laying out a house, you go on the land, and and they tell you the house have to be pattern on the land at a certain way, what part is east, west, north and south.
Yes.
But you don't have no square. So how do you make a square out of a measurement? You got to go 3, 4, 5. So 3 on 1 3-dimension on one area, 4 with like you go 4 like 3 inches or 3 feet,
Yes.
4 feet, and then the hypotenuse it'd be 5. So when you go 3, 4, 5, you got a perfect square. That's ancient Egyptian. You see it in the ancient Egyptian system as well. So they go 3 shape, 3 on one side, 4 on one side, and then 5 is where it meet. So once it meets with 5, then it's actually perfectly square, which is the shape of the right angle triangle. What they call a right angle. So you go 3 one corner, 4 on one corner, and then where the meet now would be 5. So we call it 3, 4, 5, which is 3 feet by 4 feet by 5 feet, which is the meet. So if the meet of 5, if it's 5 and more, then it's not square. But if 5 exactly is square, so we still use that in construction for people who understand that, which is 3, 4, 5. Now there's a mass, you can double that number to still get that, but that's the number in terms of squaring. You know, get a perfect square.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And for your
There's another aspect to that where they
Yes.
said, I think that's the Einstein, where they says A square plus B square equals C square.
Yes.
That's what it means. It's a
Yes.
3, 4, 5. A square
yes.
plus B square
Yes.
equals C square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I wanted just to move on to your numerology.
Okay.
And when, was because each stage, was it just a development from because it's like you're a tree with many branches on you.
Yes. Yes.
So did they all start to sprout simultaneously or at different times along your journey?
Okay, I would like to say I was exposed to a lot of things and that I was interested in, and that numerology was one of them.
Yes.
I came across this brother in New York. His name is Lloyd Strayhorn. I'm still supposed to be doing a radio program with him over here. We've been
Yes.
talking on Facebook. Lloyd Strayhorn is like a number one numerologist in America.
Yes.
And he's wrote a book called Numbers and You.
Yes.
And then one day I was on 125th Street and I met him because I used to hear him on the radio. And I
Yes.
met him and we were talking and he started telling me about, he did my numerology, you know. He
Yes.
read me out and he was telling me certain things on numbers. And I got his book and studied numerology under that, you know.
Oh,
But he's very, you know, number one in terms of numbers. So he piqued my interest in numbers because I used to hear him talks about the different aspects of learning your destiny number, your
Yes.
soul number, different things of that nature, you know. Like all the vowels in your name, all the consonants in your name, all of
Yes.
these have meanings, but
Yeah.
we don't realize that they have meaning. Or your totality of the number, of the letters in your name equals a number and equals something. Or the
Yes.
missing letters or the missing numbers in the name, missing letters, missing numbers, what that represents, you know. Yeah, so all of those are much connected.
Wow.
You know,
And what was the last area that you started to unravel?
last area. You mean what I'm doing now?
Yes. So
Well, I'm telling you, I've actually turned off WhatsApp. I haven't been on WhatsApp as much because I'm thinking something like almost like a dog and a bone. You know, I've been studying. Am I ready to talk about this? Yes, I am ready
Maybe,
to talk
maybe.
about it. I'm actually putting a group together with an elder, who's gonna be teaching Imberia music, how to play the Imberia.
wonderful.
Yeah, and that's heavy.
Wow.
And so the Imberia,
Yes.
and I've got some music on me as well. And I tell you,
Maybe we
it's
could,
yes, we
do a
can play
little
some things so
sample.
people could
Yes.
hear that, and it's very, very powerful. So this is what has been one of the, that's what I've been really turned off and been doing a lot of research and reflecting and just preparing for that class. So
Yes.
anybody interested in learning to play the Imberia and
Yes.
interested in joining our Imberia orchestra, which is
Yes.
where we're setting up, then you can also link me for that because I'll introduce you because we'll be having ceremonies and classes dealing with the Imberia music and the importance of it and the history and all of that stuff. So that's what's been taking, that's one of the things that's been really, taking up my time lately in that sense of interest.
Interest. Yes.
Because there's some mysteries and magic and different things along the line, which I will be talking about in connection. So it's not music plays a major role in survival
Yes.
for African people that we don't
Yes.
realize, and so that's some of the things that were like mind blowing that I've been looking at. Yeah. And I've been dancing as well. So even when I listen to the music, I mean, I've been on the floor and dancing. So if you ever hear,
Wonderful.
and actually, I'll be speaking at next Anti-June market, so I'll be also
Okay.
talking in connection on that as well. So you might see
Well,
me doing some dance
super.
move in connection to the excitement of dealing with that. Yeah? Yes. Next one? Yes?
Oh, I was
Yeah.
waiting to hear if you do a little sample.
Oh, you want a sound bite? Yeah, okay, I
Yeah,
could do
let's
that.
hear a
I could do a
little
sound
bit.
bite. Okay, good,
and
good,
just to
good.
get an idea of what the
Oh,
actual
what
sound
it's like?
is. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Let me do
So,
that then.
We'll have a listen to that particular one.
A little intro. Let me just go
Yeah.
straight to the files. Mm, okay. Imberia Empowerment. Yeah, I called it. This file I will just open. It's called Imberia Empowerment, and I'm gonna go to this guy. Yeah. Should I just play it here?
Yes, please.
I don't know how you sound with my phone. Can you hear it?
You can hear a little bit, yes.
So you hear the imbiri and you hear the shaker in the background.
Ah, yes.
My name is Galatic
This is beautiful sound. I hope the listeners could get a grasp of what that sound is. It's very earthy, the sound.
Eh?
It's a very earthy sound.
Okay.
Yes.
Wh-
It's good.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yes. There's one that they play and it's called there's a song that I've been listening to and it says it's to heal all suffering or to get rid of all suffering. And it's Tad Sanjeria. And what it is a song where they appeal to the ancestors
Wonderful.
in a time of hardship. And so the song is like they're asking the ancestors to help, bring us water when the wells are dry, and bring us food and things like that. So it's a song like it's very much like I remember Fela Kuti wrote a song called Suffering and Smiling.
Yes.
Most time we in this country and around the world we're suffering and we're smiling as if nothing is as if everything is all right.
True.
Instead of really going to real serious prayer and
yeah.
and song mode to the ancestors or to the creator in terms of asking for help, as opposed to just smiling as everything is going all right, because we don't want the neighbors or friends to know that we're having it hard.
Yes.
But in Africa now, they would have ceremonies to deal with the hardship.
Yeah.
And they would really speak out about the issues, what it
Yes.
is and what they want to happen.
Yeah.
And so that was the song that actually represent that. Very powerful.
Very,
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
it's wonderful. Because
Yeah.
I think we've lost many of our traditions in that respect of what you're talking about. Because I do remember as a child there were some elders, so they would have probably been of the ages of great-grandparents or people's great-grandparents.
Yes, yes.
And at certain times they did say they needed to pray for this or they needed to pray for that, but at specific times and specific prayers.
Yes.
Because especially in Trinidad and Tobago, like deep in the countryside, many of the African traditions have actually been kept intact.
Yes.
Like we do a heritage festival even, and for example, you cannot walk with your back facing the river after the festival, just as a small part. So I mean the festival's much bigger than just that really small thing that I've said.
Okay.
But just to give an example of the sorts of things that you have to do, and you don't, you walk, you kind of dance backwards.
Well,
You
that's
don't
interesting
really,
because it goes back to now the first question you asked me about Juneteenth.
Yes.
Because at the end of Juneteenth, when the festival is over, when we leave the beach, everybody face the beach walking out. We don't turn the back at the
No, you
ancestors.
can't.
So we're walking backwards, drumming, walking
Yes.
backwards, everybody coming off the beach
Yes.
backwards.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't turn
Yes.
your back to the
Yes.
sea. Never.
Wow, yeah.
Never.
It's interesting because also the Mighty Shadow from
Yes.
Trinidad, he died earlier this year, back in
Yeah.
October. And I
Yes.
did a couple of tribute on YouTube, not on YouTube, but on WhatsApp, sending out different writes-up in connection to Shadow.
Yes.
And one of his songs that he says is, in one of his songs he sing, it's called Pay the Devil.
Okay.
He says, yeah.
Yes.
And in the song, he said, long time ago in Trinidad, the carnival wasn't anything like how it's been now.
Oh no, it's
Carnival
completely
was
different.
more of a celebration in connection to the ancestral spirit.
Yes.
And so what he said, the people would come out with all kind of regale, like masquerade shapes and masquerade this and masquerade that,
Isn't
and
that-
knocking sticks. Yes.
Isn't that a little bit like John Connor in
Right.
Jamaica?
Yes. That's what they had.
Yeah.
And
okay,
he sing that in there, you know.
Yes.
So people were making packs. And so in this song, he said pack,
Yes.
pack.
Yeah.
But people used to look at it as devilish.
Yeah.
So you call it pay the devil, meaning you're giving respect in the sense
Yes.
to the energy.
Yes.
And but people were making pacts, and so that's what he's singing in the song. But he was saying that calypso, as it is, or the calypso or the carnival, was more of a praise to the ancestors, or ancestral worship, or ancestral connection, as
Yeah.
opposed to we just going out there shaking the bam bam as people do
Yeah.
these days,
Yeah,
not recognizing the connection with the ancestors and that mystical side.
absolutely. And even, when we look at it, like you say, it's a shadow of its former self.
Yes.
And even the costumes, people would really make an effort
Yes.
to produce
Good
proper
quality and the sensation
Yes.
that goes in it. Yes. Yes.
costumes rather than basically underwear
Okay.
with some feathers on it.
Right. Excellent.
They actually had something to show for their creativity and what they were trying to show as a sign of respect
Right.
to their
Yes.
ancestors. But now it's
Now
it's
the
a
respect
feather
is
show.
gone. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a feather show.
You see, and especially even in ceremonies, when people are having ceremonies,
Yes.
the things that they would do, like even a month or weeks before the ceremony, preparing candles, preparing this and
Yes,
preparing that,
yes.
we've lost that kind of connection. But the reverence that they had long time ago in connection to the ancestors and ceremony and carnival is much more grandiose and much more
Yes.
authentic and much more straight to the point, to the heart, and that
Yes.
connection. And because they look at that is like it's a blessing when you
Yes.
really connect with the ancestors and you prepare these things, because you know that what would manifest from that, it's something that is unspeakable in
Yeah.
terms of connection. But we lost that understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't do the kind of ceremonies and the kind that would really says we're moving mountain in that sense. We've lost that. And young people, it's like they get in connection with a lot of movie sitcoms or different things on the TV, as opposed to really the connection with ancestors and the elders, the kind of reverence and respect for the elders. We've lost that as well.
Yeah, because
You know?
I think people have to be taught this from very early in their childhood. So you have to see examples of this from your adults very early on.
Yes.
If you don't see those examples early, some people would say burn the scriptures, but there are certain things like train up your child in the way it shall
Should
go.
grow. Yes. And when it becomes old, it wouldn't depart from it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's so
And
true.
this is a failure
Yes,
that
yes.
we have in the community.
Yes.
I'm not saying there are not people who are doing it, because there are some people who are very tuned in. And
But
so
it's
are
that
their
cross
children.
cultural. I think it is the cross culture, because then it's so much crosses. We have to deal with the cross culture that the grass is green on the other side for most people, or think so.
Yeah, they think it's greener on the other side. However, as it goes with most situations, the grass is not greener on the other side. What it is that the grass, you stop seeing its own luster. Grass can only be fruitful if you nurture your own garden.
Yes,
That's why the garden on the
Yes,
other side.
exactly,
And I'm always
yes.
saying to, because I've got nephews and nieces, and they're like, "Oh, it's better over there." I'll be like, "What's better over there?"
Yeah.
It's like that because that little boy's, toy thing or whatever is. Look how he keeps it. So if you maintain your own, then you wouldn't be able to be looking at other people's, because yours would be equally shining.
And then because we're
So-
not taught that we have to hand down certain traditions down the
Yes.
generation, we've
Yes.
lost that, because you got some cultures are holding on to certain things that they have to pass on because of
Yes.
any changes that's going to happen in the world, by not understanding way back.
Yes.
It would affect them in many ways. And when I look at
Absolutely.
some of the research, I was like, wow, it's mind blowing to see some of the stuff that's been stored away for us. Like, for instance, we're talking about, certain disaster that's happened long time ago, that the ancestors or the elders realized that would reoccur, and they put writings and put things for we could have a clear understanding that we're going to be down this road again, and this was what it's like, and we don't realize. There's a book that I've read called the Magic of the Gods.
Yes.
And that's heavy,
yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And it goes into a lot of the things from the past and what it, you know, the reoccurring in the near future, you know, and how we need to be aware of certain things like, you know, certain stars and certain comets that would reoccur and create certain disasters, you know, and it's like secret. Yeah.
So it is. It's I think the word here, as we've only got 10 minutes, just about 10 minutes left.
Okay. Wow. Time goes fast, isn't
Very
it?
fast.
Okay.
But I think the word that is quite fitting for now is Sankofa.
Yes. Return to the roots. Yes.
Because it's vital that we start to. Many have, and they've made the effort to start moving forward, as we see within the community. There's a lot of people who've started to become woke.
Yes.
But there's many more that we need to do the work to help them wake up.
Yes.
Whilst we are also developing ourselves. So Sankofa is vital. As we have this amazing brother here in front of me, brother Galactic Clyde, and we want to, if you could please give your details.
Okay.
So your email and so people know how to get
How
hold
to get
of you.
in touch with me.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, people can be in touch with me on the Galactic Spin.
Yes.
Galactic GALACTIC spin SPIN at hotmail.com.
Yes.
Galactic spin at hotmail.com. And also my phone number is 07961 476 356. That's 07961 476 356. Did we went to all your questions, or there's lots more to go?
There's a lot more.
There's a lot more to go,
So we
we'll
will
have to do more
definitely have
parts.
to
Yes,
do
yes.
several other parts. And I'd like to home in specifically on specific areas, right? Because today Galactic Clyde was just giving you a synopsis really of all of the areas that he does. However, I think we can dig a little deeper.
Yeah, we haven't gone into herbs yet.
No.
We haven't gone into, there's lots we haven't touched yet, and which we will talk about. Even to do with your birthday, because, I remember somebody contacted me from the US and asked me, well, it's a new year. What should I do in terms of the astrology and the connection?
Yes.
And I say, well, your new year is on your birthday. Or each birthday for birthday is your new year in that sense.
Yes.
The new year that we're celebrating is the connection with the earth and government and all of that.
Yes.
But your birthday also is your new cycle, or your
Yes.
new year from your birth to your birth.
I
And
do
it's
believe
important,
that.
we can cover that maybe in the next one about the
Yeah.
importance of astrology, the importance of the numbers, and why you need to look at your numbers in
Yes.
connection to your name or the date of birth or your age. Your age
Yes.
is a number, but your
Yes.
age is a spin. It's a 1 year spin to much how many years you are.
Yes.
And that spin represents something that is very important to you. You've gone how many years into your life, and it represents something. And we can
Something,
tell
yeah.
you what that represents from astrology, numerology, and all of that.
Yeah, so I would, from this, I'm understanding that it's very important at the beginning of each year, and your year meaning
Your birthday to
birthday year, yeah.
Yes.
To have a look at your own cosmology
Yes.
and see like a birth chart, for
Yes,
example.
birth chart, yes.
Which Galactic Clyde actually does.
Yeah.
And actually overviewing what is possible with your energy for the next coming year and how everything is aligned, so you have clear, clean focuses.
Yes. And what to expect, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because you change cycles every year. It's a different cycle. It's not the same year when you move on. That's why we're saying 2018, 2019, even though we know that the year in itself or the timeline that we're in is much more longer than that. But even that, we can code it into what's happening planetary-wise, even card-wise, or even the Mayan system of astrology, which covers the numbers change every year as well, because you're moving up and down the different number frequency from 1 to 9, and from 1 to 9 all the way, and each one of these numbers that you're embarking on have a different meaning and aspect for your life. Important to know. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you too.
I'd love to.
Sister
I'd like
Lee.
to say no. You're very welcome. Thank you for coming in to Bless Radio, because I'm going to play out on a track or two. But I'd like to say thank you so much for Galactic Clyde for coming in. He will be in the studio again with me on another show where we will be digging a little deeper, because this is a powerhouse of a gentleman here. And I think there's much more for him to share with us, and maybe hopefully inspire many of you to start looking into some of these areas and see how it can actually elevate and edify your own life. And I think this is one of the most powerful things that we can do starting into 2019.
Yes.
And going forward. So I'd love to wish everybody, all the listeners out there, a fantastic weekend. Have a blessed week. And I hope you enjoy spending the time with friends and family. For those of you who are working, have a great time at work. The list song we're going to play out on is Call on Him, and it's Fred Locks with Christine Miller.
Yeah. Call on Him, call on the King for our daily blessing. Jah will never forsake you. Jah is here to save you. He'll always be your guide. He's always by your side. Oh yes, so call on Him.
I'm calling on. Oh, Jah, as a rock I am standing strong. For you've been my counsel, it's you I call on when times get rough. Envelop me with your tender mercy, of your love I cannot get enough.